And hello everybody, and welcome to this next part in the Top 11 video tutorial series. In this part we're going to talk about how you acquire players. There are three main ways to do this. There's the auction list, negotiations list, and the scout list. You're going to get here by pushing this button here. So I was already on the screen, so that didn't need to be activated. Now we're going to talk about auctions first. That's the most important. That's where you'll get the majority of your players. And there's a few tricks and tips that you'll want to do in order to make sure that your tokens are used effectively and you get the right kinds of players. Now the first thing you want to notice is that there's different things you can sort them by: age, quality, value, and then the deadline. Well, the most important ones are the value and the quality. When you're looking on the negotiations list, first thing I do is I sort by quality. So I get the highest players at the top. And I look down at anything that ends with either 4 or 9. So here's the last one that ends with 9. So these players and above are the players that I definitely want to look at. Since 69 is the highest I can buy, while I would buy somebody lower if they had a special circumstance, like they played multiple positions, they had a very good special ability that I wanted, like this guy for example. He has a defensive wall and he plays 2 positions, so this is a guy I would consider even though he's only 68 and he's lower value, because if nothing else he'll probably be a good sub or a good 1-year player. So really you want to check for these guys, ones that end with 4 and 9. The second column that's important is market value. Market value combines their age, their quality, and their training speed. So if you get a guy who's 18 but low value, that means he won't train that fast. But if you get a guy who's very high value, it means that he will. So let's look at the value. And as you can see, I already have the highest one marked in because I want him. So these guys, as you can see, it's all younger players at the top. So, you can look down here, and if you see some players that are of 68, so if I needed this position, that would be a guy I would strongly consider getting, but I don't, so he's not queued in. The way you queue in a player like this is you simply click on him and either check or uncheck this button, and that makes him appear. And then you can watch him until your auction ends. Now, as you can see here, there's 7 minutes left, so I'll cut the video to where the auction is actually about to finish, and then I'll walk you through how that works and give you some tips as well. However, there are several things you want to do before you even put one token on a player. The first thing you want to do is look at your competition. As you can see, we have 2 guys here. They are both level 10, which isn't really good or bad, it's just something to note. If this was a higher level player, that would mean that he's not looking at a 5-star player, he's only looking at a 4-star player, so he's not as likely to put up a huge fight, whereas both these guys will see him as a near max rated player, so they're going to fight harder than somebody that would not see that. So that's the first thing you kind of can note immediately. The second thing you want to do is check to see, are either of these players obvious token buyers? If you can spot that, you can avoid getting in a bidding war or even bidding on a player at all. So through experience and just watching auctions, I used to do that when I first started playing the game. I would just watch auctions to get a feel for what kinds of players are going to attract a lot of attention and what kind of players you can sometimes grab cheaply. Now, believe it or not, these really expensive players like this, for my level, is quite expensive. It's not as high as you can get, but it's pretty high. Believe it or not, those actually you can get for fewer tokens because not a lot of people can bid on that. Not a lot of players are going to have that kind of money just laying around. If this guy was like 10 or 15 million, a lot of people can afford that, and they're going to look for that. A 5-star player rated 68 that's 15 million would probably be 28 to 30 years old instead of 18. So that would be the main difference. You're not getting a young player. If I get this player, then I'll probably be able to use him for 3, 4, 5 seasons, assuming he is a good player. So I'm buying a keeper with the intent of having him for a while. I'm not buying this guy with the intent of just having him for one season. So those are the kind of things you want to plan ahead for, which is discussed in another video. So anyway, to check to see if either of these are a token buyer, simply click on them and their team will pop up. This will tell you how they did last season. Now you can click on their squad. Now, if their entire squad has a special ability, or their entire squad looks really good, then this person's probably a token buyer, and you probably do not want to get involved with them because they'll have unlimited resources. This guy has a pretty good team. I'm a little nervous about going against this guy, but we're going to do it. So, we'll check the second guy. The same information. You can see also their quality. He's lower than me, so that's a good sign. And also, he looks like he has a nice team. Another thing you want to note is their money. He has a lot of money, so he's not going to be afraid of the money. This guy, he has plenty of money as well, so nothing he needs to worry about. I actually got a player last season. The bidding went 46 rounds. That would be 46 tokens. And the guy ran out of money. So I actually noticed that the team had a couple million less than mine, so lucky me. So, yeah, that's data you definitely want to gather before you even put one bid down. Because, you see, I have over 1,000 tokens, so I wouldn't be afraid to drop 30 or 40 tokens on a guy if I really wanted him. So, unless you're ready for a fight like that, don't get involved with a team that is clearly a token buyer. And I will put up a picture of one to show you what one might look like, so you can avoid doing that. This is the kind of team that if you're considering buying a player on the transfer market, you want to stay away from teams that look like this. This is actually my friend's team. She has over 900 tokens, and if she wants a player, she's going to get that player. So unless you want to spend an outrageous amount of tokens, don't go up against a team like this, because that's going to be all their mentalities. So the reason to stay away is lots of special abilities and a ridiculous number of stars, especially in the starting lineup, lots of multiple position players. That's a clear indicator that the person who owns this team is both able and willing to pay a premium for their players. So those are the types that you do not want to get into auctions with. Okay, I've cut to about the time where the knockout round is going to start, so I'm going to go ahead and bid. In 10 seconds, we'll start the knockout round. So anybody who has not put in a token will be out. So far it would be just us three guys. Usually some people jump in at the last second. Well, as you can see, that just happened. So there'll be 4 of us bidding for this player. I'll go ahead and check this guy's team just to make sure he's not loaded with stuff. It doesn't appear to be, so that's fine. Now, right now, if I'm the only one to bid in the second round, or knockout round 1, I will get the player. If nobody bids, this guy would get the player because he was the last bidder in the previous round. So there's no reason to ever bid more than one time in the same round. That's completely pointless, so don't ever do that. Now, what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to steal the guy in the last 2 seconds. It's probably not going to work because this is level 10, so everybody knows that strategy, and there is a counter to that strategy, which I will show you. So, if we get him for 2 tokens, that would be a miracle, but I would highly doubt it. So in the last 2 seconds, I'm going to bid and try to surprise them. As you can see, somebody else was waiting for that trick. So in this round, I'm going to actually do the counter to that strategy. So since nobody else bid except for this guy, then we are just going to be us. In fact, he did the counter to that strategy. He already had the bid, but he put in another token because he didn't want me to do that to him. So this time, I'm going to do it to him, the counter strategy, so he can't just steal the player in the last 2 seconds. So, well, he'd already gotten in, so it didn't actually matter. So we're going to go ahead and do the counter strategy one more time just to show you how that works. And if this auction becomes massive, I'll just cut to the end, but definitely want to show off several different techniques. So go ahead and throw in a token there in the last 2 seconds. Now I'm going to do the confidence strategy, where I just pound in a token immediately. I like to do this just to let the guy know, don't even bother trying to steal them from me. You're not going to get him. And often this works. Oftentimes when they see you do this, they give up. And I put one in the last second. Now that's pretty pointless. He wasn't going to get the player by bidding in the last second since I've already bid. That's the other reason I do it, to let him know there's no point in trying to steal a player from me. I will not let you do that. So I've told him I want this player, and I got the player. So what that shows is if you aren't afraid to throw in your tokens and get involved in a little bit of a war, sometimes you can talk them out of bidding. So it's kind of like a poker game. And now I have a really nice keeper, so I'm pretty happy. So there's how an auction works, and some basic tips and strategies, and how to sometimes get your players by trick, and sometimes how to get them by force, and how to defend yourself. So that's really, really important. The next thing we're going to talk about is the negotiations list. This is really, really, really useful if you see a player. So what we're going to do here is we're going to check this out. Now, the important thing to note here is all the qualities will be exactly the same. They will all be 1 point away from becoming a 6-star player. Now, you must use this to your advantage. So if you have a player that is 1 point away from a 6-star player, you should not necessarily give him that point. That's true if he's 1 away from 4 or 5 stars as well, because they'll appear on this list. Now, the advantage is you can get offered tokens, and I'll show you how to do that. So there's no point in sorting by this because they'll all be the same. So you either want to sort by value and see who is the most expensive player, or check for abilities. If you need an ability, like say I really needed a playmaker, I could get one here, or a free kick specialist. You could check these out. Minimum number of tokens is the minimum number of tokens you have to pay Nordeus for this transaction. So say I didn't get the keeper, and I really wanted this keeper here, which if I didn't get that keeper, I would have almost certainly have been doing. So what you do is you actually are making a direct offer to the other manager. Now, you have to give them both money and tokens. You don't have to give them tokens, but you have to give them some money, and then they have the right to accept or reject the offer. So we're going to make a hypothetical offer here. So this little slider here, I can slide over and back to give up tokens. Now, for every 1 token I give him, I also have to give Nordeus another token. So if I want to give him 3 tokens, I have to give Nordeus 3 more, plus the 9 I already gave them. That's 15 tokens total. So that seems ridiculous that he's getting 3 of the 15 I'm actually paying. But if he put this guy on the market on a transfer, he would get 0 tokens for whatever people paid. So it's really not that bad. And at the higher levels, oftentimes paying 15 tokens is not that bad. I've paid more than 15 many times for a player, especially a guy like this who's expensive. So don't be afraid to use this list if you see a player you want. Now, don't insult the other manager by offering him 0 tokens. They will never accept that. Don't even try. You're wasting your time, and you're wasting their time. And what some managers will do is they will hold your tokens hostage. If you offer them 0 tokens, they will not reject your offer. They will just let it sit there for 24 hours. And you don't get those tokens back for 24 hours. If someone sends me an offer, like they offer me 1 or 2 tokens and I don't really want to sell the guy, I'll just reject it immediately so the guy gets his tokens back. But if they offer me a 0 token offer, I will not reject it. I will just hold their tokens until the day expires, because it's really insulting to offer someone 0 tokens for their player, so just don't do that. I typically offer 3 or 4 if I'm going to do this, 5 if I really want a guy. I actually got a guy last year for 3, and he turned out to be a really, really nice player, so you can get some really good players on this. So if I offer the guy 3, and offer them the max amount of money, like if it goes over here, like you can slide it 1 back, because they will notice that. They can counteroffer, and they'll be able to tell if you offered them money or if you're just trying to lowball them. So if you want the player, just put the money out there, put the tokens out there, and I would just hit make offer 15 tokens. And as I said, I would not get those tokens back until he either rejects my offer or 1 day expires. So I'm paying a little bit more than the market value, and I'm paying 15 tokens, and he would get this. So that's how you would do a negotiations. Definitely do that if you see players you like. Scouts. I've only bought 1 scout in 10 seasons, so do not feel like you have to use this list. In fact, I would highly recommend you don't use this list for a couple of reasons. When I bought my 1 scout, it was under different rules. They were all 50 tokens, and you could get players that were just a couple of points away from becoming a 7-star player. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case. Like, these are all 74. They're exactly 74. It's no longer 74.8 or 74.9. So that's drastically reduced their value, and they've gone up in price. They used to always be 50 tokens. Now they're 64, 69 tokens for the best ones. Don't even bother looking at the bottom of the list. Those are just garbage. So if you were to ever even consider buying a scout, anything except the ones up here are not worth your time. And the value, again, is a factor of their training speed. So if you may recall, the guy I just bought was 32 million. And he was 18, and he was rated 68. So he's actually going to train way, way, way faster than this guy that's 69 tokens. Well, I just bought him for 6 tokens. So imagine how much I can train this guy, and I don't have to pay 69 tokens. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to use this list. So I would not recommend using this list. Stick to negotiations and auctions. The 4th way to get tokens is through your youth academy. That comes from your stadium, your youth academy. So you have 2 new players in 8 days. When you get these players, you'll get an announcement. One of them will be worth 2 stars. You want to sign him and then sell him and get some money. The other one will be 3 or 4 stars and will cost you tokens. Never under any circumstance do you want to buy that player. It's a ripoff, so just don't even waste your time. For the same number of tokens, you could get a negotiations player, which will be 5 stars, and a better player, and probably a faster trainer as well. So that's just totally pointless. So never accept the youth academy player, which is worth tokens. Only take the other one. So that about wraps up how to do transfers and what you do with your players and how to get them. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you definitely enjoyed this video, and I hope that you will come back for the next part. Have a nice day.